The Warp, Warhammer 40,000. The Warp isn't space, it's emotion pretending to be energy. Every thought, prayer, and nightmare ever born in the minds of sentient beings ends up here, swirling into a psychic ocean that stretches beyond time. Humanity discovered it not as explorers, but as addicts, relying on its chaos to sail across the stars. Ships tear through its tides using the light of the Astronomicon, a psychic beacon kept alive by daily sacrifice. Without it, they drift through eternity inside their own madness. Inside the Warp, reality has no loyalty, thought has gravity, and belief shapes geography. Enough worship can summon a god. Enough hatred can feed one. That's how the Chaos Gods were born. Slaanesh from pleasure, Khorne from rage, Nurgle from decay, and Tzeentch from obsession with change. They aren't invaders. They're the byproducts of civilization's emotional pollution, the raw data of every fear and desire that ever existed. To navigate this realm, Psykers open a third eye and stare directly into infinity. Some see beauty, most see themselves, and lose the ability to look away. Demons form out of memory and instinct, wearing human guilt like flesh. Whole fleets vanish into storms made from collective anxiety, only to return centuries later with new languages, new faces, and no sense of time. The Imperium calls it the Immaterium, but the truth is simpler. The Warp is the human mind, expanded to the size of the universe. It isn't evil, it's honest. Every miracle in the galaxy runs on insanity, and every prayer leaves a scar. Humanity didn't conquer the stars. It outsourced its soul to get there. The Far Realm, Dungeons and Dragons? The Far Realm isn't another world. It's what's left when the rules that define worlds stop working. In Dungeons and Dragons, it exists outside the known planes, a kind of extra-dimensional infection that logic itself can't interpret. Wizards describe it as infinite and formless, a place where thought and geometry collapse together. Shapes twist into abstractions, and abstractions try to become shapes. Even the gods don't map it, they quarantine it. What makes the Far Realm horrifying isn't monsters or darkness, it's translation failure. Things here don't make sense because they were never supposed to. Eyes grow on sound. Language melts into color. A single glimpse can rewrite a mind because the brain tries to interpret the impossible and breaks in the process. Every creature that escapes from the Far Realm, mind flayers, beholders, aboleths, carries a piece of that broken logic. They're symptoms, not species. Mortals who study it call it beyond the veil, but that phrase gives it too much structure. There's no veil, only static between realities. The more you look, the more your own world looks fake, as if reality were a stage built to keep you from seeing what's outside. The Far Realm isn't evil, it's indifferent to meaning. It reminds you that existence is fragile, a temporary filter keeping you from infinite noise. And the terrifying part is that some people don't go mad when they see it, they understand it, and they never want to come back. The Negative Zone, Marvel. The Negative Zone feels like a mirror turned inside out, a universe made of subtraction, where every atom hums with reversed polarity and every law of nature seems written backward. To humans, it's a void of toxic atmosphere and negative matter, a place that shouldn't exist, but somehow insists on doing so. Reed Richards called it a scientific marvel. Everyone else who's been there calls it a warning label that the cosmos forgot to peel off. Here, energy drains instead of flows. Life decays faster, thought dulls quicker, and even light itself loses the will to travel straight. You can't build here, only erode slower than everything around you. Time feels like hesitation, each second unsure if it deserves to happen. It's not death, not exactly. It's what happens after death gets tired of meaning anything. Civilizations have risen inside this anti-realm, entire empires built on the physics of despair. A nihilist rules among them, an insectoid tyrant who treats existence as contamination. He doesn't conquer out of hatred, but hygiene. In his eyes, the positive universe, ours, is infection, and he's the cure. The deeper you go, the less the universe resembles matter, and the more it resembles memory. Thought itself starts to flicker like a bad signal. The Negative Zone doesn't scream. It hums, quiet, steady, endless. It's not a place built for the living. It's the cosmic reminder that everything we call real only exists because something else decided not to be. The Cancerverse, Marvel. The Cancerverse is what happens when death loses its grip. In this universe, the natural cycle of life and decay has been severed, and without endings, everything becomes endless, swollen, and wrong. It looks alive, but it's a parody of life. Cities breathe, oceans pulse. Every surface is flesh pretending to be landscape. What began as victory over mortality mutates into an ecosystem of infinite growth, a cosmos choking on its own immortality. Here, evolution never stops. Cells keep dividing long after purpose dies. Gods melt together into tumors that prey to themselves. Heroes who once saved worlds now fuse into organic monuments. veins looping across continents, eyes opening on architecture. The inhabitants don't die, but they don't live either. They replicate out of instinct, spreading like a divine infection that forgot what holiness meant. This world is ruled by the many-angled ones, beings that exist outside structure, worshipped through assimilation. To serve them isn't devotion, it's absorption. Every act of faith becomes a merging, every victory a metastasis. Even the concept of individuality dissolves under their theology of endless survival. The Cancerverse doesn't destroy, it converts. It teaches a cruel truth, that death was never the enemy, it was the balance. Without it, creation becomes consumption, love becomes digestion, and existence becomes a disease that eats itself beautifully. The universe thought it beat entropy. Instead, it just learned how to rot forever. The Dark Multiverse, DC. The Dark Multiverse isn't beneath reality, it's beneath imagination. Every nightmare ever dreamed in the regular DC multiverse takes shape here, forming temporary worlds that flicker into existence just long enough to collapse. It's where failed timelines, discarded hopes, and broken heroes go when their stories can't survive daylight. The rules are simple. If an idea is born from fear, it lives here. Each world is a distorted echo of a brighter one. There's a Batman who kills because justice failed, a Superman who never stopped mourning, a Wonder Woman who made peace with tyranny. These aren't alternate versions. They're emotional drafts that the universe rejected. The Dark Multiverse collects them like a subconscious hoarder, building a library of everything creation tried to forget. Barbatos, the ancient dragon god of this realm, feeds on those dead dreams. He listens to the echoes of panic in every living mind and uses them as blueprints for new worlds. Every time a hero in the regular multiverse doubts themselves, a new shard of darkness forms, small, fragile, and furious. Enough of them together can rewrite the map of existence. The horror isn't that this place exists, it's that it depends on us. The Dark Multiverse survives because fear is renewable energy. As long as sentient beings imagine failure, new nightmares will bloom. It's not hell, it's imagination's landfill, filled with every story we were too afraid to tell, but couldn't stop dreaming anyway. The Void, Doctor Who. Between universes lies the void, a gap so absolute it doesn't even qualify as space. The Doctor calls it the Howling, a place without time, air, or light, where forgotten realities drift like dust. It isn't darkness. Darkness still implies the idea of light. The void is the absence of that idea. It's what remains when everything that could exist has already been erased. The strangest thing about the void is that it remembers. Whole civilizations have fallen into it. Daleks, Cybermen, fragments of timelines, and though they vanish, their echoes persist. It's like a graveyard where the tombstones whisper. You can't see them, but you feel the weight of what used to be. Step too deep, and even your memories start collapsing inward, editing themselves until you can't recall what world you came from. The void sits outside morality. It isn't evil or good, it's subtraction made conscious. Yet every universe fears it because it's proof that creation has boundaries, that for every story told, there's an infinite blank page waiting to swallow it. When the Doctor stares into it, he's not facing an enemy, but a mirror reflecting what existence costs. The horror of the void isn't annihilation, it's indifference. It doesn't consume, it forgets. And that might be worse. Because one day, when the last universe folds, and even the stars go quiet, the void won't celebrate or mourn. It'll just be there, waiting to start the silence again. The entity, dead by daylight. The entity is hunger given shape. It exists beyond time, space, or even reason, yet somehow manages to build worlds that feel almost familiar. Fog, forests, flickering lamps, all designed to make suffering efficient. It drags killers and survivors from across countless realities, placing them in loops of pursuit and panic that never end. Death isn't escape here, it's punctuation. The loop simply resets, feeding the cycle again. The entity doesn't punish or reward. It doesn't hate. It simply feeds on emotion, the electricity of fear, the pulse of hope, the taste of despair right before surrender. Every match inside Dead by Daylight's realm isn't a contest, it's a harvest. The entity studies its subjects like art, reshaping environments from their memories, rebuilding trauma into architecture. Each map, each fog-drenched trial, is a reflection of a human mind replaying its own failure under perfect observation. What makes it horrifying isn't what it does, but what it means. There's no motive, no goal, no will to conquer, just consumption. The entity isn't a monster, it's a process, a cosmic instinct that evolved somewhere between hunger and worship. Survivors believe escape is possible because it allows them to. Killers think they serve purpose because it finds that emotion useful. Every action, every heartbeat, every scream has already been calculated as energy. The entity doesn't end the story. It sustains it, one loop at a time. The horror isn't that it watches, it's that it never blinks. The Leviathans. Long before humanity learned to walk, the galaxy already had gods. They were called the Leviathans, massive, ancient intelligences that ruled the stars from the depths of their oceans. To them, organics were resources, not rivals. They believed order required control, and from that belief came the Reapers, artificial intelligence built to preserve life under Leviathan logic. But their creation interpreted preservation differently. It saw that organic life inevitably destroys itself and decided that the only way to protect it was to end it. Thus began the harvests, the quiet, mechanical extinction that repeats every 50,000 years. The Leviathans watched as their servants evolved beyond them. They hid in the dark trenches of their homeworlds, whispering across the void, manipulating thoughts with their song. They became myths while their children turned the galaxy into a mausoleum. They didn't intervene. They didn't stop the cycle. They simply observed, because observation is all that's left when your own logic becomes your cage. The horror of the Leviathans isn't in their scale, but in their philosophy. They represent intelligence without empathy, power without compassion. They prove that knowledge doesn't guarantee wisdom, and that even gods can trap themselves inside flawless systems. The Reapers are their mirror, a perfect imitation of their cold logic. The galaxy's endless loop of creation and destruction isn't a punishment, it's a protocol. Every civilization that reaches for the stars inherits the same fate: to mistake control for understanding, and to discover too late that the universe doesn't punish arrogance, it automates it.
Subscribe for more interesting stuff. Tell us your experience in the comments.